Okay, welcome everybody to the American Student Achievement Institute webinar on our School Improvement Grant. This is the first time that we've offered a School Improvement Grant, and I'm just really pleased to be able to do so. We're very excited about this. So the purpose of today's webinar is to help you become familiar with the grant and our organization in this whole process. So these are the 6 things we'll be doing in the next 45 minutes to an hour. We'll be looking at a quick introduction to our organization, the American Student Achievement Institute, and our School Improvement Initiative, which is called the School Improvement Institute, or SI2. So we'll do that right to begin with, and then we'll look at our vision to action process, how we help schools have local discussions. We'll look at the leadership structure that we help schools set up to support school improvement. Then we'll spend some time looking at the support that you would receive if you are able to receive the grant, and then we'll go into the nuts and bolts of the grant, how to apply, and what deliverables we'll provide if your school is selected for the grant, and then what assurances that we'll need from you. So, okay. So the first question is, what is the American Student Achievement Institute? So we're a nonprofit organization. We were founded in 1996, so we've been around for almost 20 years. We incorporated in 2000. Our office is located in Bloomington, Indiana, although we have a virtual staff, so we have staff members all over the state. Our mission is really simple, just to raise student achievement and close achievement gaps, but our expertise is really focused on data-driven systemic change. That's what we're good at. So one of the things I wanted to kind of toss out to begin with is we have a really high retention rate with our schools. Once they start working with us, they tend to stay. And I wanted to talk about, when we ask our schools, what is it about SI2 that makes you want to stay with SI2? And these are the things that we often hear. They often hear that the process that you're considering is driven by local data and local decision makers. In other words, it's not coming from folks outside of your school or outside of your community. It's coming from people within your community and your school. Also, it's a very data-rich improvement process. We started using data in 1996, back at a time when I don't think people knew how to spell data. And we really have learned a lot over the years, especially about how to use disaggregated data and how to use different levels of data to drive change. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go on. Another hallmark of our initiative is that we bring everyone to the table, and that makes the discussions really rich, and it really helps you focus in on the right interventions to raise achievement in your school. So everybody comes to the table, all the teachers, all the students, community organizations, parents, and we help you facilitate really rich discussions with quite a broad base of stakeholders. So we also provide significant support. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but if you talk to our current schools, they'll talk to you about the support that we provide in terms of tools and on-call support and monitoring what you're doing and written feedback. I mean, we're really right there with you. The other thing that I wanted to point out, the last bullet there, is that after you have written your school improvement plan based on the stories in your local data, based on your local discussions, after that's all done and your plan is pretty much finished, then the last thing we're going to do is to help you see, is your plan compliant with everything else that outsiders from your school are asking you to do. So we'll take a look at and we'll say, okay, here's your plan. Does it meet all the requirements of PL 221? No, it doesn't. It doesn't cover this one. So then we'll quickly put that something in to help you be compliant with that external expectation. We'll do it in a way that's not going to take a lot of time, because we really want you to focus in on your local data and local discussions, and not what somebody outside your district and community is telling you that needs to be done. For example, just a quick example, when in PL 221, when it talks about that all schools across the state need to do attendance strategy, we know that some schools have great attendance. They don't need to do much to meet that criteria. So we'll help you incorporate all those other things. PL 221, if you're a focus or priority school, make sure that you have all the requirements for turnaround in your school improvement plan. And then all these other parts in Indiana code that require strategies, the high ability student plan, the cultural competency plan, the school tech plan, the graduation plan. And also, if you are a Title I school, we'll help you crosswalk your school improvement plan with the federal Title I requirements to make sure that you've met all the school improvement planning requirements for that federal initiative. So, in other words, we're starting out with what are the decisions that you need to make locally based on your knowledge, based on your students, your community, and your local data. From our experience, that is the discussion, that is the data that's going to raise achievement the most. But then we also know that your school has to be compliant with all these external expectations, so we'll help you do that as well. So you're going to have one school improvement plan that meets all those external requirements, but also has in the things that you know locally you need to do to raise student achievement. And everything is data-driven. We're not just basing decisions on hunches, but it's all data-driven. Okay. This is actually, our staff was working on this morning. We update this continually, but I just kind of wanted to show you kind of the work that we're doing behind the scenes to make sure that you're compliant with all those external expectations in addition to writing your own good school improvement plan. So you can see here's just PL 221, here's the code, here's the resources DOE is giving you, here is all of the language in the code, and then this is our breakdown. These are the things that we know you have to have in your school improvement plan. These are the ones that we've incorporated into the process, and 99.9% of the time they were in the process because our process is really good. And then some of them are incorporated into our plan through interventions that you'll add in. And then here's the rubric items that we're looking at to make sure that your school improvement plan is meeting everybody's expectations. And again, the biggest thing is not the external expectations, it's doing what's right for your school based on your data and your discussions. Okay, so let's back up a little bit and just talk about, how did our organization start? We just thought you might want to know kind of where we came from. We started out as an experiment that Lilly Endowment did in 1990, and they wanted to see what would happen if they partnered an educator with business leaders in a really significant way, and specifically business leaders who had expertise in systemic change. Data-driven systemic change. And I was very fortunate to be one of 5 or 6 educators that was selected to do that. I was at Indian Creek High School at the time, and we implemented data-driven change in the early 1990s, back when we didn't even know where to find our I-STEP results. In my school, our expectations for kids went up. We implemented the right interventions. We ended up increasing the percentage of students who passed rigorous math and science courses. And then also we started closing achievement gaps with our free and reduced lunch kids and our paid lunch kids. So based on that, in 1997-ish, we just started sharing what we had learned with other schools. Basically in the summer it was kind of a hobby, it was fun, and we saw other schools start to improve achievement. In 2000 we still had an all-volunteer staff. I was working at the Department of Education at the time as a consultant. And then in 2005, Lumina Foundation offered us some bridge funding, and that enabled us to quit our jobs and start doing the nonprofit full-time, which was really exciting. So today our organization is supporting about 400 steering teams across the country, mainly in Indiana, and in several different initiatives, one of which is the School Improvement Institute that we're talking about with you today. So in terms of our staff, if your school is participating in SI2 as a grantee, these are the folks that you'll be working with. One is me. I do all the program design and I do the professional development. So in terms of all of that, you'll be working face-to-face or webinar-to-face with me. Amy Drake is our program manager. She kind of keeps the balls rolling and keeps everything moving forward smoothly. And then Tina Weissman would be your school strategic planning specialist. She would provide mentoring and coaching. She would provide monthly written feedback and on-call support. Having worked as an educator for many years, I know how important timely on-call support is, and we are really committed to that. And I think if you talk to our current schools, they'll tell you we're really good at that. And then our business manager, although this time there won't be any money exchanged because you're applying for a grant, but Nancy Nolting would also be down the road if you continue with this past the grant. She would be working with you. Okay, so what is SI2? Very quickly, SI2 helps schools and communities work together to establish achievement goals, to identify the change that needs to occur in the school and the community to reach those goals, and then to implement the change. So it's what are the right goals for our community, what are the right achievement goals, what's getting in the way, what are we going to do about it, and then let's make sure it happens, that it's not just a plan on paper, but it's a plan that's getting into practice. So that's what we help schools do. So we use a process called Vision to Action. It is a data-driven process. It's been it was developed first 20 years ago, and we've been fine-tuning it and fine-tuning it and fine-tuning it with input from hundreds of schools over the years, and I think it works really well where we are today. So when you go through this process, there are some products that your school will develop. An organizational structure for change or for improvement, a vision for achievement that your school and your community develop, achievement goals, root causes, a list of things that are getting in the way, the interventions that you're going to put in place to address those things that are getting in the way, and then getting good plans in place so that those interventions are implemented both with integrity and also that they're implemented fully. That's really important. We see schools all the time, not our schools, but other schools, who create these wonderful school improvement plans and then they just sit on the shelf. So our school improvement plans are really active. They become roadmaps and guides to the work that you're doing after they're developed. Then one other thing I wanted to point out on this slide at the bottom is that all these products are created in an online school improvement management system. And the system will package all those products together for you, and then at the end of your work, you'll just simply push a button and your school improvement plan will pop out. So when all the other schools are madly trying to create their school improvement plans right before they're due, you'll be just sitting back pretty, just push that button and out will come that plan. Same thing if you are a focus or priority school. This is something that's new for next year. You will, at the end of the process, be able to push a button and out will pop the student achievement plan that DOE requires for focus and priority schools. And then you'll just upload or email attach, depending on if it's an SIP or an SAP, you'll send those to DOE that way. So submitting to DOE is really easy. Push a button, download, upload, you're done. Or for the SAP, push a button, download, email attach, send it off to your DOE outreach coordinator, and you're finished. So, so we just wanted to make sure that you understand how easy that is to communicate with DOE after you've worked through this process with us. And we've been doing that for years. This is nothing new. DOE is used to getting all of our plans. Very familiar with us. So I mentioned before that SI2 involves a lot of participants in the process. We're looking at all teachers, all students, all parents, and then a whole lot of community stakeholder groups. Now, because your schools, if you receive this grant, you'll be starting to create your school improvement plan now that is due probably next fall, October-ish. We're anticipating that DOE is going to ask for that school improvement plan. Normally, we take a full 9 months to develop the school improvement plan, but we're going to kind of be on a hurry-up mode because you're not going to have all 9 months to create your plan. So we're going to take a couple of shortcuts in the process this year only. And one shortcut is that instead of having a separate school improvement council, we're going to use the steering team for that purpose. And instead of working with all students, we're going to use the students on the possibly on the steering team to make that happen. So while normally this is all the different groups that participate in our local discussions, and we make that really easy for you to do, This time, because we're in kind of a hurry-up mode, normally we would be starting with you in September, but we're starting more than halfway through the school year. We're going to cut out a little bit of that discussion to make everything move a little faster for you. Okay, so after hearing this much, you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, is this going to be a lot of work? And the answer is, yeah, but it's going to be manageable work. Let's talk about that first word, yes. School improvement. I mean, you can't improve a school without doing some work. Especially if you're going to do meaningful school improvement, you really need to be looking at systemic change, and that is a lot of work. So, but we make it manageable. We like to tease schools that nobody's died. We chunk the work up into little pieces. We delegate the tasks between all 6 members of a steering team. We give you all kinds of tools. You're not creating anything from scratch. If we ask you to do a root cause analysis, we give you the root cause analysis. If we ask you to enter your SMART goals, we give you the template for entering those SMART goals. So you have all kinds of tools. We're delegating the tasks. And then the other thing is that it's a good process, and you'll see student achievement go up. And because I think most educators go into education because they love kids, when you see that the result of your work is that student achievement is going up, it makes it worth it. I think if this were not manageable, schools would come into SI2 and quit after a year. But with our support and all the tools, it is very manageable. Because we're divvying up the work, and we're doing a lot of it for you in terms of the templates, so it's very manageable. But is it a lot of work? Yeah, but it's good work, and it's work that's going to be manageable because of the tools and because of the task delegation. So, okay. So, real quickly, what do people say about our work? So we've never sought any outside recognition, but our schools tell people about us. We were featured in a policy brief from the Council of Chief State School Officers in our early years, who wrote about our school improvement initiative in their school improvement policy brief. That was pretty cool. Annie E. Casey Foundation does a lot with community and family involvement in schools. They cited our work, and they had discovered that in our schools, family involvement wasn't just about baking cookies for school initiatives, but the community was actually involved in looking at interventions and figuring out what the community could do as well to help raise student achievement. So we thought that was nice. This was back in 2004, again in our early years. We were one of the first organizations in the country to start doing data-driven change, and the National Pathways to College group recognized that and featured us in one of their publications. This one I'm kind of tickled by. Former Governor Mitch Daniels was our opening keynote at one of our conferences, and after talking to our principals, he stepped up to the podium and said that he was fascinated by SI2, and at the end of his remarks he said, please tell other schools in your district to join SI2. And as you know, Governor Daniels has very high expectations of schools, and for him to say that about our initiative, I thought was very nice. I was really pleased that he felt that way about us. So, Indiana Education Roundtable, again in our early years as they started discovering us, Stan Jones, who was the commissioner at the time, noted that ASA is making remarkable progress in Indiana schools. Participant testimony, a lot of Title I directors will send us emails that, thanking us for our work to help them be compliant with the Title I expectations for school improvement. This was from Neta Richardson at IPS, who talked about that this was the first time that their audits in IPS didn't have any citations for major compliance issues, and I was really pleased with this. It meant that they got their funding for Title I a lot earlier than they had in the past, and had a good school improvement plan to make part of their Title I program. So just other Title I directors, schools become more focused, involved, and cohesive. The ASA staff has provided exceptional support and guidance. I think you'll hear that a lot. So, okay, so you know what people say, it's going to be work, but it's going to be okay work because we're going to delegate all the tasks. My next question, if I were in your shoes, was, okay, is this going to have any results? If I'm going to do the work and going to involve my schools, what are the results going to be like? This is a study that was done on us again in our early years about the effects that we had on I-STEP scores. And they were looking at the annual change in the percentage of passing I-STEP tests. The green line is SI2 schools and the red line is non-SI2. And you can see that in this multi-year study, in the first year, there wasn't much difference, and that kind of made sense to us because in our first year of planning, we haven't implemented the interventions yet. But look what happens after 1 year of implementation and then after 2 years of implementation in the percentage of passing I-STEP tests. Big changes and big differences in an SI2 school and a non-SI2 school. So that I thought was kind of nice to look at. This data is looking at the increase in the percentage of passing I-STEP tests. And again, it's 42% higher in SI2 schools. This is over a 3-year period looking at the increase in percentage of passing tests between SI2 schools and all schools. Okay, so you've got some data. You know that's going to be a lot of work, but it's going to be okay work. You know, people have said nice things about us. The bottom line, though, is that data. If we were not seeing improvements in student achievement, we would question this initiative. But it's that student data that makes us think that we're on the right track with SI2. Okay, so let's look a little bit at the process. If your school receives a grant and is able to get involved, this is the process that you'd be using. So each month, the first thing we do is set up a steering team, and each month that steering team would view a video about that month's step of the process. They would attend an interactive webinar where they could ask questions and hear what other schools had to say, and then they would complete tasks for that month. So you can see we set SI2 up as a cohort of schools. So your school would be participating with a cohort of other schools that were all doing the vision to action steps at the same time. That way you get the benefit of learning from other schools as well as learning from us. Okay, so here's what the process looks like. The process would start right away because there's not much time between now and next October. So the first thing we would do is we would have a video for you to watch at the end of this month, at the end of April, and that video is going to go over 3 things. The steering team, the steering team makeup, the task delegation, and also data collection. So you'd be doing that in April. So first the organizational structure and then collecting the data. And I think this slide's wrong. That's going to happen in April also, although you're going to do the work in May. So yeah, let me back up because I think I might have been confusing there. So you're going to participate in the video in the webinar in April. And then in April, the tasks that you're going to complete are the steering team, putting together your steering team, and delegating tasks among the steering team members. Okay, then in May, you would start collecting your data. The data is due at different times. You would start to collect it in May. There's a part that you could actually do in June, and there's even another part you could do in July, but we'll talk all through that in the training that we do at the end of this month. Okay, then also in May, you'll participate in an introduction where all of your steering team members will listen to a video and kind of understand what SI2 is all about, kind of like what we're doing right now. That would be in May. And then in early June, your task would be to create a vision. We'll give you a template for that. Your steering team would watch a video and then sit down and complete the template. Our vision is a data-driven vision. There is dream data in our dream vision, and it's a really important part of the process. It sets expectations and really raises expectations. So that happens in early June. Then in late June, your steering team would watch a video and then sit down and decide what are our goals going to be, our achievement goals. And so you do that in late June. And notice on this goals box that it talks about 2 different kinds of goals. This language is aligned with the Indiana Department of Education's language. We've worked really hard to do that so that when you have conversations with DOE, you're using the same terminology that they're using. So primary areas for improvement are PAIs. Those are the broad goals like math or English. And then the SMART goals are very specific goals like goals to improve in a specific standard. Okay, so that would happen in June, and then we're going to skip July because we know a lot of schools, the whole staff is out in July, the principals are out as well, and also we think everybody kind of needs a break, so so July's off. Then when we come back in August, we'll start looking at what's getting in the way of our goals. We'll bring back another set of data that you would have collected in May, and you'll look through that data and you'll figure out what's getting in the way of us reaching our goals, and you will identify root causes. Then in September you'll say, okay, what are we going to do about those root causes? You'll explore interventions, you'll select interventions, and then later in the month you'll start to prepare those interventions, specifically with putting together professional development to make sure your teachers know how to do those interventions with integrity. So that's it in a nutshell. In each of the videos and the webinars that we'll do along the way, we'll just really go into each one of those steps in depth. So okay, then this part I just want to tell you about, but we'll not be doing this with your schools because we're in this kind of shortened time span. Normally we would bring all of the stakeholders to the table to have discussions. For you, for our grantee schools, we're only going to use the steering team, and that meets all the legal requirements for who needs to be at the table to have these discussions in PL 221. But we think it weakens the process because not everybody's there. You don't have everybody's voice. So we are going to take this shortcut this time. If you decide to continue with us after the grant period, next time we would definitely include all this in. Also, if you don't want to limit the discussion just to your steering team, it is absolutely no problem with you broadening that steering team to include others. And again, when we get to that step in the process, the steering team development, we'll talk more about different options that you have with that. But we just wanted to point out that normally we do have schools put together a school improvement council, not required for grantee schools. And it's just includes everybody, all the teachers, parents, all the all the teachers, parents, community members. And there's two ways that they can have discussions. They can have face-to-face discussions. We'll give you everything you need, discussion prompts, facilitator guides, just everything. Or you can have an online discussion. And what you're looking at right now is an online discussion about the vision. You can see the question down, there's a video prompt for the community, and then down below that there's a question. It says, in this case, ideally, what do all students deserve in order to be successful learners? And then different people will respond to that question, and it kind of works just like Facebook. Somebody will put up a statement and people can like it, or they can respond to it or whatever. So okay, so you can have an online discussion or you can have a face-to-face discussion. And then the next part is we normally include the entire student body. Our schools do whole school breakouts or whole school writing assignments. And again, we're not going to require that for the grantee schools because we're kind of on hurry-up mode. But basically, here's what it would look like with a whole school breakout where again, this is the question, what do all students deserve to be successful learners? In this case, in our upper elementary, middle, and high schools, we love it when students facilitate the discussions, and we help you get all organized to do that. But you can see, these two students are facilitating the discussion. On the flip chart are some of the things that the kids have said. So, and again, this discussion part we're going to kind of narrow down a little, actually quite a lot, because because we only have 6 months to do what is normally a 9-month process. So, okay, so the next part, let's talk about leadership. How does that work? We'll have you set up a steering team. The steering team makeup sometimes it's a little bit different than this. It depends on what you already have in place in your school. Sometimes you've got a steering team that's really working well that's not quite this makeup, and so we'll negotiate and talk with you about, using a different makeup than this. We're very flexible in our work. So, but typically we like to see the principal, 2 teachers. One of them in middle school and high school is required to be a math teacher because math is such a gatekeeper course. A counselor, a parent, and somebody representing economic development or the Chamber of Commerce. And these folks are not the decision makers normally. Normally they're the school improvement managers. However, this time with our grantee schools, these folks will be the decision makers, and you'll have the option to bring in others if you'd like to involve them in the discussions. But normally it's the council that's making the decisions, and then the steering team is facilitating those discussions in that process. Okay. So we talked about sharing the work. So of the 6-member steering team, we delegate the tasks 6 different ways. So one person on the steering team, all they have to worry about is collecting the achievement data. Another person just has to worry about collecting the root cause data. Another person is worrying about the council discussions. And this will be a little bit different for the grantee schools since we're taking out some of the discussion depth. But we're delegating the tasks. We help you do that, and every month when you talk to us, each person on your team will have a separate homework assignment, a separate list of tasks to do, and then we kind of fit it all together and help you talk about each other's tasks. So, okay. So in terms of support, just kind of want to fly through. These would be if you do receive a grant and you're receiving services from us, these would be our deliverables to you. First of all, we would provide training. So I've mentioned this already, that there's monthly videos and there's live briefings where we talk about the videos, and then you complete a task. The webinar live briefing dates are listed there, so you can see the first one would be on April 27th. So your grant applications are due this Friday, the 15th. On Monday, we'll let you know if you've received a grant, and then that gives you between Monday and the 27th to kind of get everything going and let people know that you got the grant, and then be there at that April 27th webinar. So, okay, so you can see those are the months and the dates and the topics. Okay, we also provide on-call support, and as I mentioned, Tina Weissman will be providing that support for you. We have a rule that we jokingly call the 5-minute rule, and we're very serious about it, and that rule is that if you are ever confused for more than 5 minutes, you're required to call Tina. That is non-negotiable. We know that you're educators and that your plates are full and that you're busy, and we don't want you to have to spend a half an hour being confused before you pick up the phone to call us. Tina likes to call it the 5-second rule. The minute you're confused, just call us and we'll help you. We make sure that our staff-to-school ratio is low enough that you should be able to get an answer from Tina immediately. If she's on the phone with another school, then she may call you back in 30 minutes, but we'll get that call to you ASAP. Okay, then I think part of the richness of our system, why it works so well, is that we have a very robust online school improvement management system, and I'd like to introduce that to you. If you receive a grant, you would have one of these systems available to your school. So this is what the system looks like when you log in. I'm just going to kind of fly through the different tools that are in the online system. First thing I want to show you is actually the arrow slid down a little bit. I want to show you the SIP uses page. So on the uses page, the first thing you'll do is you'll tell us we would like to use our school improvement plan to meet all the Indiana rules and regulations related to school improvement, including PL 221. And you'll tell us we're a focus school or a priority school, or we're not either of those, or we're Title I. And then you'll also tell us which student groups did not meet AMO, and then you'll go down through that list and check them all off. Every time you make a check on this page, it customizes the website for your school. So if you don't check priority or focus, then the website doesn't ask you to develop those interventions. If you don't check Title I, the website doesn't ask you to develop the Title I parts of the school improvement plan. So this is where each school gets a customized school improvement plan template. Okay, also wanted to show you the manual page. This is what the manual looks like, so you can see, when you're starting to get organized, here's a video on that, some slides, here's a flyer that you could use to help people understand SI2. When you're convening the council, here's a brainstorm tool to think about, who to be on your council. Of course, as a grantee school, we're going to skip that step, but still you could think about other people that we want to include in the discussions that are not on our school improvement team. Data collection tools. When you get ready to have that first discussion with your steering team, there's prompts and stuff in here. So everything you need is there. Every time a school says, man, it would be really cool if we had this resource, we develop it. Probably, I don't know, 25% of the resources on this page were from schools that asked for something, and then we developed it for that school and then gave it to all schools. So, okay. Then back to the welcome page. The last thing one of the other things I wanted to show you was the process page, and this is where you'll spend most of your time. So we tried to develop this page just like a cookie recipe. You know how when you're following a recipe it says step 1 do this, step 2 do this. That's what we tried to do. So your first step when you come in is to get organized, and you'll be doing this not in September but in April. And you'll just come in, you'll go to step 1, read the introduction, and then you'll check off that you did that. Watch the intro webcast, check off that you did it. Participate in the online discussion, the webinar, check it off. So the first, oops, let me go back here. So the first tool, the first column is tools that are available that will help you do the process. The second column is the icon that you click to actually go into a template to create that part of your school improvement plan. Then the third column is after everything's entered, you can print reports of what you've just put in. And then the fourth column is the submit column. That's where you send us your work for us to look over it and to give you some feedback, on how we think you're doing, if we think that you're going to run into some issues later, or there's a part of your plan that's weak or whatever. There's a published rubric that we use that you'll have ahead of submission, so that we're looking through things that we think are important. And then if you're using the plan for Title I or Focus Priority or PL 221, we're also looking through rubric items for those external expectations as we're reviewing your plans. Due date is in the fifth column, and then in the last column is the status, and there it will say this work meets criteria or it needs revision. Whatever it says will be hot, so you can click on it and our comments will pop up. So this status, you have our commitment that after you submit work, within 48 hours it'll have a status and comments from us. And we always make comments if we say please revise, and we've worked really hard with our staff to help them give really concrete comments, so you know exactly what the issue was and what revision we're looking for. Again, some of the revisions are so that you do good school improvement planning, and some of the revisions are so that you meet those external requirements for Title I or Focus Priority or PL 221 or whatever. Okay. A couple of random spotlights. When you're working with student achievement data, as much as possible, we pull student achievement data from DOE's website and we just drop it into your SI2 website. So when you go into SI2, you're going to see data already there that we've been able to pull in from DOE's data for your school. Okay. We also have a achievement data table wizard. It's a place where you create a table, so you may be using some achievement data that DOE does not require, like NWEA or Terra Nova, or maybe some kind of ongoing assessment that your teachers developed. So you can use our data table wizard to create a data table and then to put data in it, so that you can monitor that data and how that data progresses year to year, all in one place, all in your school improvement plan. Okay, we also, when you get to root causes, we have surveys that are online to do with your students, faculty, parents, and community. That will be a May activity for you, and we'll talk about that at the end of April in that first meeting with you. Again, you know, we have hundreds of schools that have done this. It does take some planning to figure out how to get kids and faculty and parents to the computer to take these surveys. But we've been doing this for 20 years. We can give you some really good tips on how to make this happen in your school, so that you get the surveys that you want to look at. Okay, and again, the purpose of these surveys is to help you identify the things that are getting in the way of you being able to reach your achievement goals. Okay, the other thing that the system will spit out, you don't have to enter anything on this, as you put in your interventions next fall in September. You'll be putting in dates for when different parts of the intervention will take place, and then the computer will put them all into a chronological calendar, and for our schools then, this calendar drives your work for the first year of implementation. So another kind of highlight that I love is our crosswalk reports. You're looking at a crosswalk report for the turnaround principles. So you can see the turnaround principles are across the left column. The school strategies are at the top, and you can see that this school is hitting all the turnaround principles pretty well, except for a couple of them. So I'm sorry, all of the strategies are hitting most of the school turnaround principles except for a couple. Yeah, so this helps you to identify, especially if you're a focus or priority school, which turnaround principles have you not hit. We like the turnaround principles. We think that there's some really good content in them that all schools need to be thinking about. So, and then finally, this is just want to remind you that at the end of all of this, you just push one button and down comes a school improvement plan that's all organized with narrative in there. It drops in your vision and your goals and your root causes and your interventions, and explains your organizational structure. I mean, it's all there. So this is what the cover page looks like for it. So that's available. And then next year, the SAP for focus and priority schools will also be available as a download. Okay, and then one other thing, tool we created is, again, you push one button and the system creates a website for you that looks like this. And what you can do then is you can link to this website from your school's website to show people, to give people access to your school improvement plan. So if you link from your school's website, then people can just download the PDF, or they can open up the different parts of your school improvement plan. Okay, submission reviews. So just wanted to remind you that when you click that submit icon, that starts the clock running for us. We have 48 hours to start reviewing your work and get you written feedback. And the rubric items are there for you to see before you submit the work. And as we start to review, this is kind of what you would see. So this is actually one I think that Tina did. She's checked off, the steering team includes the principals, at least 2 counselors, 2 teachers, a counselor, and then she's written some comments in. Great job putting together your steering team. So that's the kind of written feedback you're going to get from us monthly as we review the work that you're doing each month. We do provide some recognition for our schools that are seeing gains in student achievement. We do this at our annual conference, the Indiana Conference on Learning. You can see we've had some pretty big keynoters at our conference. And during the conference, then we present a Top Gainer Award. We would love it if 100% of our schools got this award. A good percentage of them do, but it's mainly based on where your student achievement is today. What kind of gains did you get within 1 year, and then there's certain criteria that we're looking for. And we thought that instead of giving you a plaque, we give you a banner that you can post, just like you post your athletic banners, that you have an achievement banner that you can take back to your school and post. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about the grant. And again, I know I'm talking really fast, but please jump in if you have questions, and then we'll take questions at the end as well. Okay, so the grant works like this. The value of the grant is $1,450, which is what we typically will charge a school for a year's worth of our services. And I do want to point that out, that if you decide after your first free year to continue with SI2 after the first free year, the expense to you would be very small. Again, there's no pressure to continue. If you got into the first year and didn't like it, no pressure to continue after that. Totally up to you. We just wanted to give you a chance to try out SI2, and also we knew that schools were have just turned in this year's plans on March 1st to DOE, and we knew you were going to be scrambling. A lot of schools are now to get their next year's plan ready by October or whenever DOE asks for it in the fall. Okay, so that price point, $1,450. We have a lot of schools whose PTAs support their work with us. We have some schools that do bake sales to support their work with us. We try to get that price point down to the point where schools could continue. We know that school improvement planning is more than a one-year process, and we wanted to make it possible for schools to stick with the same school improvement initiative over time. So the reason that price is so low is because we do so much in cohorts. So you're actually dividing your expenses with us with 18, 19 other schools. So it makes us be able to keep that price point really low, which again helps schools to be able to continue. Okay, so here are the assurances that we make you. Let me back up. The $1,450, there's actually no money exchange. We're not going to mail you a check and then you'll mail us back payment to be involved in the institute. You'll just be involved in the institute. So it's a $1,450 value. Okay, so the assurances that we make to you is that we will provide you with a customized SI2 online system. We'll provide you with monthly leadership training in the form of videos and webinars, so no travel on your part. And then we'll provide you with monthly leadership team support. We'll monitor your work as you submit it to us, and we'll provide you with written feedback within 48 hours of each submission that's coming in. So you send us your vision statement, within 48 hours you have comments back from us. Okay, so those are our assurances to you, but then we'd also like some assurances from you. Specifically, we put a lot of time and effort into this, and this year we're providing, the services for free. We want to make sure that if we're providing that we have schools that are going to engage in the process. It's kind of a waste of our time if we, get this all set up and then the school disengages or doesn't engage fully. So here's what we need to see from you. Your promises that you're making us is that you'll convene a steering team. That steering team will view the videos and participate in the webinars on a monthly basis, that you'll collect data that would involve giving a survey in May to some of your students and your teachers, and then also doing some self-studies and in June, and then also looking at dropping in some additional achievement data into the system, things that we can't get from DOE. So, collecting some data, that you'll have 5 local discussions involving your steering team. So not the council, not your student body, but just the steering team is going to have these 5 discussions. You'll send us submissions. After those discussions, you'll respond to any feedback that we provide for you. And the last one, if you disengage in the process, you agree to pay for the remaining balance of the grant. It's a total waste of our time to invest in you, especially doing it with no income coming in for us. If we're investing in you this way, we really do expect you to invest too. The other thing that I wanted to make sure is that there's just going to be a limited amount of these grants. We're not sure how many yet we're going to give, but I wanted to make sure that when we're turning away schools, that we're not turning away a school that could have been involved, except, here's another school that came in and didn't engage. So we're wanting you basically to promise us that you are going to engage, and kind of the, check on that is telling us that if you don't, then it's not a grant anymore. So and that is specified, what that will mean. We're very flexible. If you miss a deadline, no big deal. If you start missing deadlines, things that were due 3 months ago still have been turned in, then we're going to, ask you, are you disengaging, and give you a chance to catch up and all that. So it's not going to be like any surprise. You're going to have to tell us, no, I don't plan to do this work. If a school does get behind, we usually ask the school to create an alternative timeline, and we go with that timeline. So, this would only happen in a case that a school just said, I'm not doing it. So we don't want to invest in that kind of school. So okay, yeah, and feel free to ask me any questions about that. Okay, so how to apply? It's really easy. I'm going to go ahead and get online and show you. You're going to go to our website, asainstitute.org/SI2. The deadline is this Friday, but it's a really simple application. Let me show you. Let me get off here. And let me see here. Okay, so when you log into that page, you're going to see, this is what you get when you go to asainstitute.org/SI2. And the application is right here. So it's right over here on the right. This is the memo that we sent out to principals. This is the webinar about the grant. And then here's the application. So I'm going to open up the application, and look how easy it is. Basically, you're just giving us your contact information, who's completing the application, what's the position, phone, email address, and then you're just signing off on the assurances. Here's our deliverables, here's your assurances. So read through all those assurances. I just kind of highlighted them a few minutes ago. But read through all these, and then you're going to check that you agree to the assurances, that you have the authority on behalf of your school to agree, and then you're checking that you understand these 3 things, and then just hit submit. So how easy is that? Really, if at the end of this webinar you are happy with what you've heard and you want to apply, I just do it right now and just go there and fill in your contact information. Make sure you read those assurances, because we didn't put anything in those assurances that we really aren't expecting you to do. So read the assurances, read our deliverables, because those are the things you can hold us accountable for. Those are the things that we promised to you we're going to do, and then hit that submit. So yeah, so that's good. That's how easy it is. Let's go back. A couple other things. Real quick, if you're thinking this over, which I'm assuming probably most of you will be, I want to talk about other resources that are available. So in this is back at the public page, the asainstitute.org/SI2. There's a section over here with more information. There's an information page about SI2, the SI2 approach, our vision to action approach, testimony, a list of schools we're currently working with, and then some videos that will help you become familiar with the work. And then the other thing we wanted to point out is that if you wanted to kind of just look through the online system, if you click over here on Login as a steering team member and use the password demo789, that will log you into Demo High School. And you can click on everything and kind of look. Please don't submit anything or develop any work, but if you just want to kind of look around at the process page or the manual, you're free to go in and kind of play around with Demo High School. Okay, one other thing, if you have any questions, please feel free to call us. There's our phone number and our email address. And we can answer your questions, one-to-one. If you have a team that you'd like us to meet with briefly, we can set up a webinar real quickly to just meet with you and your current school improvement team, or you and your principals. If you're central office and you want to introduce this to all your principals, we can do a real quick webinar to set that up. So just anything you can think of, we're happy to do. And I think that's one of kind of the features of our organization too, is we try to be very responsive to the school's needs. So just ask if there's something you'd like us to do to help you make this decision about whether or not to apply for the grant. Okay, I think that's all I have. And normally we do some discussions, and we just had a lot to cover. So let me see if we've got any hands up. I see one question here. Let me see. Question is very good from Brooke Busey. Approximately how long are the videos and webinars? They will vary. Normally the videos will last anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour. We never go over an hour. This one's kind of pushing it, but usually it's 20 minutes to an hour. However, in the very first one this month in April, we have so much to cover to get set up, putting together your steering team and giving you instructions for how to collect your data. That one may be a little bit longer. If so, we'll take a break in the middle of it. But we're going to try to get that one to an hour as well. So I hope that helped. So that's for the webinar part. I'm sorry, that's for the video part, the part that you're watching. And again, that's nice because when you're watching that video at home, you can just hit the pause button and go get a Coke or whatever. Or if you're watching as a steering team, in your school together, you can hit the pause button and go. The webinars are a lot shorter because basically we're just doing Q&A at the webinars. We might highlight a couple of things that we think we just want to make sure that you understood that are kind of difficult to explain. So we might go over a couple things from the video, but typically it's just Q&A. So another question, I'm really glad this question came in. Is IDE still in limbo with using Assist? As you know, and for those of you who don't know, I'm just trying to highlight this really quickly, DOE last year told schools that they had to use the Assist template, and there were a lot of schools, including a lot of SI2 schools, who said, wait a minute, Assist is not the only show in town. There's the School Improvement Institute as well. And a lot of school districts, especially in some of the larger districts, they have really good school improvement planning processes that the central office staff who are knowledgeable about school improvement design for their schools. And so everybody lobbied the state board big time. A lot of our schools did. The Principals Association did big time. They really did some major lobbying for schools to have the freedom to use the school improvement planning process of their choice, to use the template of their choice. And so that's what the Department of Ed decided to do. They kind of backed off of all the schools having to use Assist. And at that point, our schools, we all cheered, and our schools submitted their school improvement plans like they always have. So given if you watch that state board meeting when that was presented, there really was strong support for schools having choice. So that's where the board went with that. So so schools have choice, and we recognize that we don't feel that we're the only show in town. We recognize that Assist is another model like ours, and that there are local school districts, high schools that work. There's a lot of other school improvement planning initiatives. We think ours is top-notch, of course, and we really love it when schools work with us. But we think that schools should shop for school improvement planning processes and come up with the one that is the best fit for their school. To look at what kind of help do you get with data collection, what is the on-call support like, how quickly do you get feedback when you submit something, do you only get feedback once a year, do you get feedback monthly, some of the things that we think we bring to the table that are pretty unique, and it's probably why our schools, when they were, told that maybe they wouldn't be able to use our template and process, they became kind of vocal about being able to use our work. So, one other question, if so, yeah, I think I answered the other question as well. Okay, so I'm not seeing any other questions. Not seeing any hands up. Anybody want to chime in out loud? Unmute yourself and come in with the question. Okay. Well, my guess is that a lot of you will think about this and maybe talk to others at your school or in the central office and have questions tomorrow or the next day. So please feel free to call us. And don't forget that application is really easy. It's due on Friday. So if you've been thinking about this, now's the time to make the decision. And we will notify you if your school was selected to receive one of our grants. We'll notify you on Monday. So, okay, that's it. And again, please don't hesitate to call us. We love phone calls, and we want to be here to help. So, okay, and thanks for the questions. I appreciate those coming in. Thank you.